was very, very shocking to me, Mark. I was not expecting that. Let's call it what it is. It was a blowout, right? I was not expecting that blowout at all. The Eagles are going back to the Super Bowl, guys, after the epic beatdown of the Commanders 55-20. When I first looked at this game, I thought it was going to be a much closer game because the Commanders were playing on borrowed time, right? They were playing with house money, zero turnovers. They were protecting Jayden Daniels. They were doing everything right to get to this particular point. But then I got to ask myself this question, guys, and I want to ask you guys this same question: was the moment too big for the Commanders? Was this NFC Championship game too big for the Commanders? Because, like I said, Mark, all postseason before this game, the Commanders held on to the ball. They had 0 turnovers and just 1 sack. In this game alone versus the Philadelphia Eagles, he was sacked 3 times and threw 1 interception. That doesn't count the countless times that he got tackled in the backfield. He just happened to fight his way forward for a 0-yard gain or a 1-yard gain that didn't ultimately end up count for a sack. The Commanders, Mark, also had a total turnovers of 4 turnovers in this game. They fumbled on kickoffs. They fumbled by like running the ball. They were just loosey goosey with the ball all game long. The Eagles had 0 turnovers. Jayden Daniels, of course, did his thing. 255 yards passing once again, and he was the leading rusher for the Washington Commanders with 48 yards. So, Mark, when you see all those stats and you hear all the numbers and you hear this, and this, do you think the moment was too big for the Washington Commanders?
I don't think the moment was too big. I think that it's just really hard for teams to be consistent. Like you have good games, you have bad games. They had a bad game, but let's just give it up to the Philly Eagles defense. Like they schemed up Jayden Daniels and they got him to throw the ball. Like they had fumbles. Like you got to give it up to him.
Yeah, I mean, you can give credit where credit is due, right? The Philadelphia Eagles had a great game plan. They knew how to beat the Washington Commanders, and they executed that thing to the T. And they do have the best defense in the NFL. I think many people forget about how good the Philadelphia Eagles defense actually is. They went out there and they forced those turnovers. It wasn't like the Commanders were having bad handoffs or fumbled snaps. No, they were punching the balls out. They forced Jay Daniels into making that mistake, right? The Eagles defense was that good. So when we look at the Commanders, Mark, you say they're not too big. The game wasn't too big for them. I'm saying it wasn't too big for Jayden Daniels, but now the rest of the team, Scary Terry, Dan Quinn, Cliff Kingsbury, a lot of those people have never been on a organization that expects to win these games. And Jayden Daniels, I feel, expects to win this game or expected to win this game. Obviously, I think Jayden Daniels is the only reason why the Washington Commanders were in the position that they were to win. But Mark, let me caveat onto this question. Do you think Dan Quinn is the reason why the Commanders lost this game and not the moment being too big, obviously?
No, like I know you always tell me that you don't like when I say this, but I think the Commanders were like my Broncos. They were like way a year ahead, dude. They weren't even supposed to be this far in the season. They weren't supposed to make the NFC Championship. The fact that they made it this far, like you said, I got to tell you, I hate that saying, playing on house money. I hate that. But besides that, Philly schemed them up really good, and I think that Jayden Daniels just had a bad game. Like I think he's going to go on to do big things, but I think you're right though about the fan base and the organization. Like they haven't had a winning team there in a very long time, so they have to change that culture around to go back to their old winning ways.
Yeah, you are not wrong at all, Mark. Mark, let's try to find your headphones because the speaker is just picking up the microphone. We're getting a nice little echo
My bad.
effect happening on there. But to caveat or to pile on to what Mark was saying is, yes, the culture in Washington has not been good since 91. Let's just be flat out honest. Just between the hookers and the cocaine and the cheerleading scandal, all that is now out the door, right? And I understand that you like, even though you clear out all the toxic waste, you are still going to have that toxic residue over the organization for time to come. This was definitely a big step in the right direction. And Mark brought up a great point. This is a rebuild year, right? They are a quote a year ahead, a year or 2 or 3 actually of this rebuild process. And when you look at this rebuild process, I keep referring back to the New York Giants back in 2019, 2020, when Brian Daboll first came in there, Mark, and they made it into the playoffs his first year when they were in a rebuild mode. And then they're like, we're not bad. We're fine. Do you think the Washington Commanders are going to be sitting back and relaxing now, Mark, since they got to the big game? They are a year or 2 ahead of schedule, and they're not going to really use that $93 million in cap space wisely. And they're like, oh, you know what? Our team's perfectly fine. And then they're back to where the New York Giants are now, right? Do you anticipate them potentially being bad next season or the year after that or year after that?
I mean, they do have new ownership. So I hope that would change things. Like, I kind of look at them like my Broncos. We're both teams in rebuilds. We both have rookie quarterbacks. We're trying to get our teams back on track from years of losing. So I think they're one of those teams just like us.
All right, guys. So I believe the moment wasn't too big for Jayden Daniels. I think it was a bigger for the rest of the of the team. Mark is saying it wasn't too big for them either. The Eagles were just that good. So guys, let me ask you guys this in the question or in the comments. So in the comments below, guys, do you guys think the moment was too big for the Washington Commanders? And is that what empty means over there on YouTube? Sorry. He says, as a team, yes, the moment was too big. But as for Jayden Daniels, no, the moment was not too big. Listen, Jayden Daniels, Mark, is years ahead of his time. Like,
agreed.
He is just stone cold faced. Now, I normally like his post game interviews, right? He just level yeah, I expected to win. Yeah, we just didn't win. But the one thing I did not like about his post game conference in this game was this was just another game. And I understand that mindset of saying, yeah, it's just another game. But at the end of the day, it wasn't just another game. And I wanted a little bit more emotion out of Jayden Daniels out of that. You are nodding in agreement. What did you expect to see from Jayden Daniels in that poster?
Maybe he's just too young still to realize where he was. He didn't realize that the Super Bowl is a big deal. It's going to be a big deal his whole career. He doesn't know that yet.
Yeah, and he would have been the first rookie quarterback ever to win a conference championship game.
Right.
First rookie ever to be in the Super Bowl. And, he's had a hell of a year, and that would have been a great explanation point to end it. Even just making it, not beating the Kansas City Chiefs, but just making it would have been great. Jim Powell is the Pigskin Pundit as well. He's the CEO of the Pigskin Pundits. He says the Commanders were playing a paper lion. Weak defense the week before. So Jim was saying the Lions sucked the week before, and the Commanders should have rolled over them just like they did. The defense the week before, the Eagles is way the truth and the light against the Kansas City Chiefs. I kind of miss living there, hearing all the gunshots at night. So basically, Jim is saying that the Eagles defense was the truth. The Eagles defense was the real deal, and nobody is getting past the Eagles if the defense plays top notch. Do you kind of see that as well, Mark?
That whole roster is stacked. You know me, Buck. I've been high on them all year because of that one reason. They are going to be tough to beat.
Yeah, I was kind of late to the party on the power rankings. I was as far as them, but was week 11. I put them up there, and they just kept getting better and better and better and better. They're definitely a very, very good team. Fly Eagles Fly say that Jayden Daniels is a good quarterback, and Fly Eagles Fly. I'm going to take this one step further. He's a great quarterback. Jayden Daniels right now is a top 5 quarterback in the NFL after his rookie season. It would not shock me one bit on this upward trajectory that he is in right now, Mark, that you start talking about him as a top 2, top 3 quarterback at the end of next season. I told you,
I think he's top 5.
Yeah, he is top 5, hands down. So how do you think he can get to that top 2, top 3 status?
Super Bowl, man.
Super Bowl is what it takes, huh? Super Bowl.
Everything's judged by chips.
Yeah, it's sad but true. Yeah, Kurt Miller says this is the United Way Sports Talk Show. Congratulations. I know that you're trying to be funny and sarcastic, but okay, whatever. Alpha Rob says the game is how I expected it. I didn't put them, but I did not expect the Eagles to put 50 on them. I don't think anybody was, honestly. Like, let's just be honest. But once you saw the passing attack of the Eagles, you're like, okay, this is gonna get ugly really, really, really quick.
But dude, Saquon Barkley, that guy is like can run 70 in a mid-second. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, it is crazy how the Commanders had with like 18 play drive their first drive. 5 seconds later, it's 7-3. Like what? Like I looked away and Saquon Barkley's like 50 yards down the field. Like what is going on? Like it is crazy. Alpha Rob said the Eagles should have put 60 on Washington just for having that stupid name. Alpha Rob does not like the Commanders. Alpha Rob says Commanders is the dumbest name out there.
He's right.
Seth says, let's talk about the Commanders jumping offsides on the tush push. I never knew they could just award a score like that. Listen, if you guys do not remember, it was Louisville, right? Jumped over the line, was it twice or 3 times in a row? And
kept doing it.
Yeah, and the second time, they're like, hey, if this happens again, it's a personal foul. And then the third time, like it happened again, it's like, hey, if you do this again, we're going to award the Eagles points. I've been watching football. I've been around football for a very, very long time. Mark, I'm 36 years old, so I've been really understanding the football game for about 20 years. I've never heard that before. I didn't know that was even a thing. You are an NFL expert. You know the game inside and out. Did you know that rule?
I didn't.
Yeah,
like when I heard that, I was like, but how do you stop that play? Like, unless you try to jump over like the dude was doing.
Yeah, well, like, I mean,
like they're gonna probably outlaw that play, dude. I bet.
I would have agreed with you if this was 3 years ago when it first started happening, but now that other teams are doing it, like, I don't see how they could outlaw it besides a safety thing, right? And I've only seen one player really get hurt from the tush push. It was it Tank Dell last year, I think, for the Texans, like broke his leg. But that was just a freak accident, right? I mean, he just got hit in the right spot. I don't see them outlawing the play, but I definitely see them trying to, like, limit the head contact, like, because, for example, when the Bills and Chiefs played, Chris Jones and the center's head, boom, right? Like, it was, I could see them doing something like that, like you can't, I don't know. You might be right. They might try to outlaw it, but definitely try to, make it safe.
But let's be real. The Eagles are the only ones that do it good.
Well, and the Bills do it well. Like Josh Allen is unstoppable.
But it didn't help him in the biggest moment because the Kansas City Chiefs knew that he always went right.
Yeah. True. Josh Olson says, I think it would be cool if the NFL regular season was only 10 games and the best of 3 series in the playoffs in the Super Bowl. No, that would be dumb. I don't like that at all. I mean, and baseball is awesome, and like NBA, it is awesome. But playing the same team 3 weeks in a row, potentially, that's going to cause a lot of fights. It's going to be very, very boring. And by week 2, you know the team inside and out anyway. So it's going to be a 6-3 score anyways. Mark, would you want a best out of 3 series and like the playoffs?
No.
No, not.
They just need to make these all-star games mean something. Like when the baseball one was cool, it was because it meant something. Whoever won got home field advantage in the World Series. So it's like, do something like that.
That wouldn't happen because the NFL is always a destination Super Bowl, right? In Miami and New Orleans. I mean, think about this. It takes months and months and months to prepare for that Super Bowl. Halftime, six and security. Would you want to go to, let's say, Buffalo, New York in February, negative 20 degrees outside, could potentially be 8 foot of snow on the ground? Would you really want to see that Super Bowl?
No, that's too many games.
Yeah, I'm just saying. Fly Eagles Fly says it was a hard game for Washington. It was a very hard game for Washington. Once Saquon Barkley scored that very first time, pretty much untouched for 60 some yards, I was like, this game's over. Like in my heart of hearts, I knew it was over. Laura says, it was too soon for them, in my opinion. None of us thought they would make it as far as they did, meaning the Washington Commanders. Laura, you are absolutely right. I am eating crow about the Washington Commanders 100%. I said it would not shock me if they missed the playoffs back when they were kind of fumbling around. They were fooling around, right? Then they, won the last 2 games to finally lock it in, beating the Eagles. And then I was like, the Buccaneers, they're the real deal. You don't want to play the Buccaneers in the playoffs. Commander said, hold my beer. Watch this. Nobody thought they were going to get past the Detroit Lions. They said, hold both of my beers now. Watch this. But yeah, you are right, Lord. Nobody expected them to be here. And if you are a Commanders fan, or 2, you are a complete wannabe hot take person throwing spaghetti at a wall. Hopefully something sticks. Nobody in their right mind thought the Commanders were going to be here. I'm just calling it, like, I'm calling you a liar if you said that, unless you're a Commanders fan, right? Then obviously you're going to root for your team. Too Evil to Hope says Jayden did fine. Jayden did great. Jayden Daniels is the only reason why they scored 20. I guess it was 23 points, right? Jayden Daniels is the only.
That's the only reason they went as far as they did.
Yeah, exactly. Go ahead, Mark.
Because he's the truth, man. He's really good. He put that team on his back and won those games.
Yeah, Too Evil to Hope. I've been saying this all for not all season long, but probably for the last 6-7 weeks since I've been kind of buying into this kind of Commander hype. I'm like, listen, Jayden Daniels elevates everybody's play. If we're looking at Madden and you see Scary Terry has like an 80, with Jayden Daniels on the field, he's an 85. You can see Dan Quinn. He's probably a 60 coach, right? With Jayden Daniels on the field, he's a 70 coach, right? He elevates everybody around him. He has that Tom Brady syndrome. I'm not saying he's Tom Brady. Do not get that twisted. But Tom Brady demanded greatness out of people. I mean, he was a raw type of in-your-face guy. I don't think Jayden Daniels is that guy, but just his work ethic and his mentality and his pursuit of greatness elevates everybody. They're like, oh man, we got a 22-year-old kid out here at 5 a.m. outworking us. We step up our game, right? Like, he definitely elevates everything. Alpha Rob says nothing is guaranteed. He is back in the championship game. Excuse me. I don't know what you're trying to say there, Alpha Rob. But yeah, nothing is guaranteed. The Commanders might be the Miami Dolphins of the 90s, right? They'll never sniff another championship game. You might be exactly right. Drew says Jayden was ready for the game. The team wasn't. The team failed Jayden. Mark, looking back at this game, the Eagles defense, we cannot take anything away from the Eagles defense. They played great. They punched the ball out. They made big, huge key tackles, and they stepped up when they had to step up. Like, Drew, personally, I just don't think the team was good enough to compete with a team like the Eagles. Like, I'm not saying they weren't ready. I'm not saying they were outperformed or outcoached. They just weren't good enough. Because, Mark, you said the Eagles had the best roster. Do you think they just weren't good enough?
I don't think the Commander skins, as I call them, we need to trademark that shirt, but I think that, like I was saying, I think they're like a year ahead of schedule. So I think they just need some pieces around Jayden Daniels, and you know what? He could be back to the championship game again.
Yeah, we will be talking about this. And question number 3 is if they can rebound. So stay around for that, Drew. Seth says you can't say Super Bowl when Josh Allen has made 1, and you can't tell me he's not top 2 or not top 3. So basically, Mark, Seth is saying, hey, Jayden Daniels can be top 2 or top 3 without a Super Bowl, because we all know Josh Allen is up there.
So is Lamar, and so is Burrow. He's been to a Super Bowl, but he hasn't won one. I still consider all them like the best quarterbacks in the league.
Lamar's not even top 10, man. Stop it.
I knew you were gonna say that.
Stop it.
But he might be the 3-time MVP, Buck.
Might be. Well, I guess we'll find out Friday. Is it Friday the awards on, or Saturday? Yep. Saturday, I can't remember. Keith says Chiefs Kingdom. What's up, Keith? What's up? Jim Powell says nobody reads the D like Mahomes. I think Jim's trying to be funny, but he means defense, right? But Daniels will get there. If they don't go back to the game next year, I'll be surprised. But you are talking about a team that has something to lose. So, Jim, I kind of see what you're saying, right? Just because the Commanders been there, right? Nobody expected them to be there. Next year, Mark, they are going to be the hunted. Everybody's going to be out giving them their best shot week after week after week. This year, they thought, hey, we can play a B game and probably beat the Commanders. Now, you're going to get the A+ shot every time. Do you think that will affect them?
Honestly, dude, I think they need some better pieces on defense. I think that was a huge part of why they failed. Like a lot of their games were like 30, 40 points a game, and you can't have that if you're going to win.
Yeah, and especially when you have the 29th ranked rushing defense coming into the best rushing offenses team, makes for a long, long night.
Like we said, they have an old defense. They need to get younger guys.
Yeah. Bobby Wagner played great until about divisional round, and then championship game, he was nowhere to be found. He was just tired, right? Drew says, let's say the referees did award the Eagles the points when they were jumping off sides, right? When the Commanders were jumping off sides. Who would get awarded the points to? Like, who would get the touchdown in the fantasy? Who in that betting, who would get the touchdown? I would say probably the quarterback, right? I mean, it seems like the quarterback always gets defaulted to like all that stuff, but I mean,
that's an interesting question.
Yeah, that is a question for those referee experts on CBS and Fox that always get shit wrong. But I digress. Sean Will Book says, I want a game in February in Green Bay. No, you don't. Nobody wants to be outside in Green Bay in January, let alone February. Like, nobody wants to be out there in -20, -30 degrees and potential for 15 feet of snow. Nobody wants to play in that shit. There's a reason
why.
They
tried the Super Bowl one time, New York. My Broncos were in it, and dude, it literally blizzarded the next day.
Yeah, I mean, hell, even was it the it was your Broncos taking on the Carolina Panthers, right? And it rained. I don't even want rain in that Super Bowl. No, it wasn't.
You're thinking of the Colts Bears Super Bowl. That was a rain game. That was actually in Miami, and it rained.
Yeah. I don't even want rain. I want perfect conditions. I want 75 and sunny. If it's not going to be 75 and sunny, put me in a dome and crank that baby up to about 85. I want to be sweating in the stands, right? Like, I don't want any chance of rain or nothing. Sheesh. Josh D says, go Birds. Go Birds. Sean Will says, I think they will be even better next season, meeting the Washington Commanders. In hindsight, yes, you hope your trajectory does go up, right? But Mark, what happened to CJ Stroud this particular season? Everybody's like, oh, boom, boom, boom.
Yeah, he had a decline.
Sophomore slump, guys. The sophomore slump is a real thing. I'm not saying Jane Daniels will have a horrible season, but I'm not saying he is going to have a great season either. I think we're going to see probably Jane Daniels kind of be status quo next season, and probably year 3 into year 4, then we'll kind of see him transcend the way he did this season, and he is the keys to that ignition, like R. Kelly was. Too soon? Laura says, I hope J.J. McCarthy plays as well as Jane Daniels his first season. Well, Laura, you will get to see J.J. McCarthy in a San Francisco 49ers uniform next season when they trade him. You don't think that?
Through that pot, Buck.
Hey. Charles says the Eagles are just way, way better. The Eagles defense is way, way better. The Eagles defense is the real deal. The Eagles defense cannot. When I look back at this game, and I thought it was going to be a 20-23 score, maybe 17-20. Like I thought it was going to be a low scoring game, mainly because of the Eagles defense, right, Mark? And looking back on it now, I'm actually kind of surprised that the Eagles defense even gave up 23 points. The Eagles defense is that much better, right?
A lot of those points were some garbage during garbage time.
Right.
So in all reality, they probably held them to 13.
Yeah, because when they scored that big touchdown over the middle that made it, was it 16-12 or something like that, 16-13? I can't remember, but yeah, I think you are about right. Jim says Washington made it as far as they wanted to. If they wanted to play on, they would have put up a different type of fight. So John says they were satisfied with being in the championship. They were satisfied. They were proud. They were like, hey, maybe next season. Do you see that?
You know what I kept thinking about? Dan Snyder being pissed on his freaking yacht somewhere, seeing the Commanders in a championship game.
I don't think he really. Listen, what they sold that team for? What, like
Screw that guy.
like $11 billion or something? It was something ridiculous.
You know, it still pissed him off.
You know, if I had $6 billion, I don't think I would be very upset. I'm just. I mean,
No?
obviously, I'm not in his shoes. But like, I'm not the type
Come on,
of person.
man, we're petty, dude. You would be mad.
I'm not petty, but like, I mean, like I wish other people success. But you know, looking back on it, when I did leave my first high school job as a defensive of a coordinator, and I took a head coaching job, I did keep an eye out on them, hoping they would like, oh, we miss you, but yeah, I mean, yeah. I mean, I get you right. Said Washington will be back. They just need a couple more pieces on defense and a couple more receivers. We might as well just keep adding it. They need a new head coach. They need some more offensive linemen, and they need a running back, right?
You know what I don't like? Dan Quinn's supposed to be like a defensive genius,
right?
And where was their defense this year?
So the defense overall was ranked about 15th, middle of the pack. Pass defense was top 10. I think they're 9th to end the season, but the rush defense was terrible. They were 30th, 29th, 30th all season long. So
overall, not that great of a defense.
No. I mean, and to be honest, what is Dan Quinn thought process? When he was with Atlanta, he's like, hey, I want to beat up on bad teams, pad my stats, make my teams look good. With the Dallas Cowboys on the defensive side of the ball, what do? They beat up bad teams. They shut them out, pad the stats, make them look good. When they played a team like the Buffalo Bills, oh, yep, James Cook just scored another touchdown on them. Like, they get ran all over, right? It's just Dan Quinn is not a big-time coach. It's simple as that. Not a big-time coach.
I think that could be part of the reason if they don't go to the championship game again.
So let me ask you this, Mark, because New Orleans Saints has a job opening. Cliff Kingsbury says he is not going to pursue that. He's happy in Washington. Do you think the ownership, general manager, is in Cliff Kingsbury's ear saying, hey, if Dan Quinn doesn't get us back to the championship game or Super Bowl next season, the job is yours? Do you think Cliff Kingsbury is the future in Washington and not Dan Quinn?
You know, that's a good thought. But I'm not totally sure Kingsbury's ready to be a head coach again. I think that's why he's staying in Washington for now.
He was very, very bad in Arizona. I think he was 24-38 with like one tie, all losing seasons except for the one season in 2020 where they started off 11-1.
And then they were one and done in the playoffs.
Yeah, and then they lost to 4 of the next 7. And actually, Mark, that was my first viral clip here on the Man Hour. I said the cracks of the Arizona Cardinals are showing, and the next game they lost to the Green Bay Packers, and they end up losing 7 in a row or something like that. So, yeah, I know my shit, guys. Just know it. Not to gloat or anything.
Sometimes.
Jim says anybody that doesn't win the ship needs to make immediate changes. I'm saying, like, effort would have been different if they couldn't win, if they wanted to. I agree, Jim. I agree. Laura says, put down that man juice butt. JJ isn't going anywhere. JJ's getting traded, Laura. You are signing.
That means they're going with Darnold?
You are signing Sam Darnold to a 5-year, $60 million a year contract. You are going to overpay for him, and he's going to be like Kirk Cousins and be cut the next season. I'm just saying. John says 80 degrees. What are you, a dolphin? Only can play in warm weather? No. Listen, John. I'm 36 years old. I played football in Canada for 4 years. Now the CFL starts in what, like June, July timeframe, and we're usually done by Thanksgiving, Christmas time, or like the first week of December is the championship game. Have you experienced 40 degrees below? Like, it's cold, man. Hell, I'm from Kansas, and when it gets like 25 degrees and that wind starts cutting through your soul, I don't want any part of that at all.
Is there any teams with domes in the CFL, Buck?
No, because at the time when I played, we only had 8 teams. Now I think now they're up to like 12 or 13 actually. But no, nobody
No
had
domes.
no, because because for one, the CFL is not really profitable, right? The fields are 120 yards long and
They're
by
huge, yeah.
60 yards wide, and just it's expensive to heat a dome. It's expensive to build a dome. It's just all around expensive. Now
I'm surprised, actually.
yeah. Now I haven't watched CFL since my last game there was 2013. So I haven't watched it, I haven't seen anything, but yeah, I mean they might have dome now, but I doubt it. Highly doubt it. It's very expensive. Josh says the game would have been closer if the Commanders wouldn't have had 4 turnovers. And Josh, the reason why the Commanders had 4 turnovers is because the Eagles defense punched the ball out. The Eagles defense forced those turnovers. Like I said, Austin Eckler wasn't fumbling the ball. Jaden Daniels wasn't throwing interceptions like Jared Goff was. Like he had one, but they were all, it was just a freak accident. Like the Eagles were punching the ball out, Mark. Like the Eagles were causing those turnovers. So that's why the Eagles won that game. Jim says, I just like the SEC. Who the hell wants to stay in ass deep snow when New Orleans is 4,000 degrees all the time? Exactly. If you had a choice of cold or heat, Mark, what are you choosing?
Heat.
Exactly. And you live in Colorado.
Dude, that's probably why, because I get sick of the cold.
Yeah. Listen, my grandma is from northern Michigan, up in the UP, right? It would get down to like -20 there. And I'm like, how cold does it actually get? And like, cause she's like, once it gets below 0, like you just don't feel shit anymore. I'm like, no, not
Makes
wrong.
sense.
Right. Jim says it's a different kind of cold. When you wear a t-shirt at -35, it's not terribly humid. It's the dry heat. What are you, from Arizona, Jim? Get out of here with that crap. Josh says, I think 45 degrees and sunny is perfect football weather for football outdoors. And Josh, you are absolutely correct. But as a fan, I want a nice shade. I want a cold beer, and I want 80 degrees. AKA, I like sitting in my living room watching games. I'm just saying. Sean says, yeah, I'm from Wisconsin. Was the Packers game versus the Cowboys with the controversial catch on the goal line? I'm 38. I get it. Players don't want to play in that. Yeah. I mean, so not only do you have to think about the cold, right? So I do know that Lambeau has a heated field now, right? So that field technically never gets hard. But think about it like if you were playing, I don't know, just 5 years ago, when it's 0 degrees outside, the ground is freaking concrete. Do you want to be landing on concrete play after play after play? I'm like, no, you don't. You don't want to do it at all. Jim says, Western Pennsylvania, we laugh at Kansas winter. Listen, I understand Western Pennsylvania is it Lake Erie up there, right? No, that's be Superior, right? So it'd be Lake Superior gets all that lake effect snow. But Mark, you even have the snow there in Colorado, but I feel like the snow kind of insulates your state and kind of keeps it warm, right? Kansas, we don't get snow. It gets too cold to snow, right? And so it's just cold and nasty, and it's just miserable. Like you can't go out and play in the snow. Like you can't do this. Like you're looking at a frozen ground that has just dirt because it rained and it's frozen. It's all lumpy. It just sucks. It just sucks. Winter sucks unless it's snowing, right? But anyways,
our snow goes away pretty quick.
So you are on the opposite side of the Rockies, then? Yes. Yeah. So you know exactly just how it is. It just blows and just miserable, right? Like, damn, give me some white stuff to play with. I do like some good cocaine. But speaking of cocaine.